What is going on, everyone? Welcome in to the Oregon game recap here at the Voice of College Football. I apologize. One, it's a recap. It's not a live post game. That's on me. I was traveling for work. So, we do it the best we can. Also, upfront, if I sound a little really funny, I can't hear out of my left ear and I can't breathe out my left nostril. I think I'm getting sick, and my ear is never acclimated to the flights from the last couple of days. I don't know what's going on, but so I can't hear. So I might be yelling or not talking loud enough. But let's get right into this because there was a lot to talk about from this game. And obviously, it was, for the Pac 12, it was definitely the game of the weekend. We had game day there, two top 10 teams, number 10 Oregon versus number 9 UCLA. And the game went way better than I thought it was. This game kind of made me nervous. I don't know what you guys thought. Let me know in the comment section. How did you think this game was going to go? Did it, meet expectations, beat expectations? But, keys to the game really, I thought, were coming down to it when we looked at it were, which team runs the ball best, because Oregon had the best rushing offense in the Pac-12 coming into the game. UCLA was number 2. Both defenses were 1 and 2 respectively in rushing defenses also. So really it came down to who could run better and who could stop the run better. And neither team did really good at stopping the run. I will say that. And at the end of the day, Oregon ran the ball better than UCLA. UCLA still put up good yards. Don't, take that lightly. But another one of the keys was, which team can get a couple of stops? Well, you could argue both teams really didn't get a lot of stops. I mean, outside of anything crazy. One of the other things was don't let UCLA contain Bo Nix. Let him move around. Let him, let him do him. Let him be mobile, whether running or just moving outside the pocket, extending the plays. And then especially for Oregon was contain DTR. Do not let him run the ball. Don't let him go off, because if he goes off, it's going to be a bad day. The game, I don't recall the line. The game was, I think, 70 or 75 total. And I think that came out pretty accurate, because I think most people thought the game would probably become a shootout. It didn't quite turn into the shootout, but the point spread matched. So, and then one of the other big things, especially defensively, was both teams are going to show a lot of different formations. I mean, we know Chip Kelly, he loves doing different formations. He loves changing things up. Well, so does Kenny Dillingham. He likes experimenting also, apparently, because he put out a couple formations that were very interesting, like one of the goal line, 3rd and goals, where he spread everyone out. You had 3-0 linemen and Bo Nix. And then everyone came together, kind of like the swinging gate, the 2-point conversions they used to run, just to kind of test the defense. So those were all going to come into play during this game. And I think, it was necessary. It was like testing each other. But yeah, if we look at like the overall of the game, it went better than expected. The first quarter and a half especially, were both teams just testing each other, I think. That's what it really felt like. Both teams scored a field goal in their first drives. Both teams scored a touchdown in their second drives. Oregon scored a touchdown on their third drive. And then that's when they decided, Dan Lanning and Dillingham and staff, whoever exactly made the call to do the onside, was out of their minds. Because if it didn't work, you don't know what would happen. But it was a ballsy call. It worked to perfection, and that was a way to say, let's keep the defense off the field, and we have offensive momentum. Let's keep it going. And hats off to Broyle, because that guy, as the kicker, he waited so patiently to get that ball. As soon as it hit the 10-yard mark to grab it, it does take patience. The announcers, I remember, they were saying, hey, that's ooh, you know, because you want to go for the ball, but he knew he had to wait. What we got in here? We got Randy in here in the chat. Yeah, I mean, exceeded expectations. I don't know if it exceeded expectations. I think it was more like this is what we have seen from him so far outside of the Georgia game, and even the Georgia game, minus the one bad interception. He wasn't terrible, but I mean, yeah, since then it's like clicked. I mean, you could say that's the type of defense he's playing and stuff like that, but I think it's more the coaching staff and him becoming more comfortable together, but also adjusting to what they did wrong in the first game. I definitely think that's been part of it. But well, they they did get a couple stops. I mean, there was the one interception in the end zone when UCLA was moving the ball. So I'll agree that was I think that was a critical stop, and that kind of deflated UCLA a bit because they were moving the ball. We knew they would move the ball, and that's it. It was depending on what defenses would get the stops. And I will say that was definitely a critical stop. We didn't do anything with it, as I recall. I think we had punted, but it stopped UCLA. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. We got Brian in here. Yeah, I mean, Chip has been at UCLA this is his 5th year, and you've started to see the returns finally coming from him there. And this game did because Chip's, he's a scheme guy. He likes to do that stuff. That's how he works. We know this. But yeah, I think Dillingham, especially offensively, really they're testing the boundaries also in their own rights of formations and play types and not just run the ball like Cristobal did, but in different variations, in different styles. And I think it's keeping people off balance. And I think that's what's really beneficial because a lot of the big plays that Oregon is doing is off of running the ball. If they can't run the ball, a lot of those plays don't happen. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But I think running the ball is essential for the Oregon offense, and I think everyone would agree with that. There was some key things during the game too. One thing I noticed was penalties were not really a significant factor in this game. There were some kind of weird ones. We had a couple false starts. There was a holding call. They had a delay of game, and then they had that ineligible man downfield during one of the big pass plays that got called back. And speaking of like some of those penalties, especially Nix was getting heated on the field with like the O-line and just in general over some of these penalties, but also some of the protections because they kept letting UCLA have a free rusher a lot of times off the edge. And I think sometimes he thought that there wasn't supposed to be. So he was getting heated with the O-line, especially a little bit. I mean, nothing, egregious, but, let him know, hey, we gotta do this better. We gotta be better at this. And I think that's a leadership role. We don't see that a lot because Herbert, like Mariota, especially, they were not exactly the most vocal people. So it's a little different to see a quarterback sitting there going, you've got to do your job better to the O-line, especially in certain situations. There was one huge pass play by Franklin. It was called a catch, but they had pass interference, so regardless, it would have been a first down. And Franklin got up and started like kind of trash talking the UCLA defender a little bit, and Lanning grabbed Franklin immediately, called him over. Basically, it was like, tore into him a little bit, like basically saying, "Don't do something stupid. Do not, antagonize the situation and get a penalty yourself." And I think that's part of the coaching staff. That's Lanning. That's 2 or 3 times I've seen Lanning do that so far to players. Even if they make a good play, they pull them aside and they go, "Don't be stupid, though. Don't make a good play a bad play." And I think that's really important. And something else from the coaching staff was, especially the first half, at the end of the very first half, which we've seen it, especially at the Arizona game, the very first half, the end of the half, the final drive for Oregon offensively, the time management is like spectacular. Arizona, as it expired, scored a touchdown. Yesterday with UCLA, I think they had 7 seconds left on the clock after Oregon scored a touchdown to go up 31-13 at the half. Like, just great time management. Great time management. I don't know if we can say much more than that. At least so far, that's how they're coming across as. But, yeah, the offense as a whole, really good. I think we knew we were going to give up yardage defensively. And we did. Obviously, they gave up 30 points. One of those touchdowns doesn't really matter. I don't know. But we're going to give up yards, especially against like a Chip Kelly offense that seems to be clicking. They're going to give up some yardage. But the offense itself was really good. I mean, continued to roll 545 total yards. Knicks, I mean, what else can you say? 22 of 28, 283 yards. Nothing spectacular in the sense of yardage, maybe, but percentage, amazing. 5 touchdowns. That's a phenomenal day. Franklin, who continues to just come on as the top receiver. Like, there are weeks where you think he's definitely the guy, and then the next week he outdoes himself again. 8 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Irving and Whittington just establishing themselves as number 1 and 2 running backs, especially because Cardwell is still out, which the last update I heard about Cardwell was it's really up to him when he wants to come back and play, like when he's comfortable. They've never really discussed what it was or what injury or whatever it was, but they said it's up to him when he wants to come back and play. So will he, redshirt at this point? I don't know. But Irving and Whittington establishing themselves. Irving, 19 carries, 107 yards. Whittington, 12 for 73. Again, very effective. Knicks had, I think it was 80 rushing yards. I didn't really write that down, but, he was effective running the ball. He didn't have to run it a lot. He didn't have any crazy things, but they did a lot of read option too. And when he did it, he was effective. He would get 5, 6, 7 yards, get a first down. Effective. It makes the defense think. And, come on, let's give some love. Patrick Herbert, he's been there a while. He got a catch in there for 14 yards. Got to give him some love. Got to give the tight end, even though he's technically he's a tight end, but now he's technically kind of quote unquote the fullback. So I'm not sure. I guess they still have him listed fully as a tight end, but he was in the fullback position off that catch for the play action when he got that catch. But yeah, rushing wise, yeah, phenomenal day as usual. But again, the rushing sets up the play action. That's why we got like that amazing 49-yard touchdown pass to Franklin. It's all off play action. Obviously, there were some other really good key things, but play action sets up everything. The run game establishes everything I think Dillingham really wants to do. And, I mean, again, even the first drive, this has got to be a huge positive for Oregon, too. The first drive, we had to go for a field goal. It was a 44-yard field goal. When has Oregon ever felt comfortable doing over 40-yard field goal? Can someone in the chat tell me the last time we felt comfortable doing a field goal from over 40 yards? Maybe Rob Beard, maybe, like 2010, before he got injured or whatever it was. Maybe. So to see Lewis out there hitting 44 yards and having the trust and not even worried about it, just that alone. You don't ever want to have to trust a kicker in the situations to like win a game necessarily, but knowing that he can, be really accurate from that type of distance is a huge plus because as Duck fans, we have known kickers has not been a strong suit for us in the past. But at the end of the day, like we were saying, Look, the final score was 45-30. The score makes it feel closer than the game really, really was because, again, at halftime, it was 31-13. UCLA was pressed the entire second half to catch up to us. And even in the second half, Dan Lanning was aggressive still, at least in the third quarter, especially. He was really sorry. Like I said, if I start coughing or sneezing, sorry. I've just not been feeling well. In the third half, especially in the first drive, he went for it twice on fourth down, both hit on Oregon side of the field. That's aggressive when he's like, no, we're not done yet, and we're going to put this game away. And that's what he did. I mean, that's aggressive. And I appreciate it because if you think back, that's what Chip Kelly would have done. That's something he would have done. He would have been like, nah, we're going to go for this. Well, Dan Lanning and Dillingham are falling right into that mold in a sense of confidence in the players, the scheme, and the execution. And then just, of course, the players, knowing that they can do what they need to do and get the job done. Which is something kind of funny because there was a comment from DTR. I think it was after the game from, Thompson Robinson from UCLA after the game saying, if the Bruins had just done their job, meaning the players, Oregon would have never hung with them. Something along the lines of that. Basically saying, if they had just executed a little bit better, they would have blown us out or something. I'm like, I don't know. Thompson Robinson, he's kind of a cocky guy. But that's what you have to have. You have to have that attitude and mentality, I think, to be the quarterback. You have to, for some people, not everyone, but you got to kind of have that edge and attitude. So I don't mind it. Let's see. We did give up passing yards. I mean, we gave up some rushing yards. Really not that bad. We gave up 168 rushing yards. And that was off of some missed tackles. Unfortunately, there were some missed tackles again. And that helped UCLA, ramp up and gain some extra yardage. But for the most part, it was not that bad. I mean, we gave them, again, 168 yards. Not terrible. Especially to the second leading rushing team in the conference. Not terrible. Because, again, we had 240 rushing yards. Or maybe a little more. But one of the things, too, the pass defense, yeah, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. But there were several great one-on-one pass defenses made, especially like Gonzalez. He really should have picked off that pass. I think it was in the third quarter. No, I think it was the second quarter. I think it was the second quarter when UCLA scored their touchdown to make it 10-10. Gonzalez had a great pass defense, and he really should have picked it off. He was right in front of the receiver. He just couldn't hold on to it. But yeah, the secondary is actually holding up relatively well. And that was the one thing I think most of us were kind of a little bit nervous about because that was the weak point. We lost a lot of guys from there, a lot of experience. Obviously, bringing in Gonzalez helped a lot. But, I think it was one of the things that kind of made us a little bit nervous. But so what do you guys think of this game? What did you think? Were you guys worried about it? That was the wrong one. Sorry about that. Were you guys worried about the game at any point in time? Was there, the first half specifically, maybe before we went up big? Because, again, we both exchanged field goals and touchdowns, both possessions, the first two each. That kind of had me a little nervous because I was like, oh boy, when are we going to stop it? Because even the first drive, I'll be honest, UCLA may have had a touchdown that first drive, but they had a couple penalties that, got the touchdown called off and backed them up, and they had to settle for the field goal. That's on UCLA, not us, but it made you kind of go, they're moving the ball pretty well. But again, final score 45-30. Again, I think the score doesn't really tell the whole tale. I think the game was further out of reach really than that. But we gave it points. Again, we're going to that type of offense, those type of players, especially Charbonnet. Again, that guy, he was breaking tackles. We couldn't bring him down. Sometimes it took 2 or 3 guys sometimes to take him down. That's a big dude. So it wasn't surprising. But I thought overall they contained him and DTR relatively well. Again, they're going to get their yardage and they're going to do what they do. But I thought the defense did, pretty well. Is there things to clean up? I think the coaching staff would agree. Yes, of course. There's always something you can improve on. It's just, what do you want to improve on and why? And can you do it and how fast can you do it? Or is there something just let it ride? That's up to the coaching staff. That's why they're there. That's why they get paid. And offensively, again, you have to look at the average level of competition the Bruins have played against. They did, again, they pretty much ran wild on Utah. But, Colorado, everyone, I think, runs wild on Colorado, unless you're California. Cal, Jesus. But the Bruins came in only giving up 344.8 yards a game on average. And the Ducks put up 545. So, again, you'd have to look at each specific game to see the actual yardage allowed and given up. But the average is a respectable number. That was the best in the pack. That's probably dropped now. It might still be the best. I would have to go back and look at that stat. But at the beginning of the game, they were the best in the pack in the sense of yard per game allowed. So, offensively, the offense is clicking. I don't think we have to worry about the offense. It's just, can the defense improve maybe just a little bit in certain areas? Oh, we have a guest in here. I cannot hear myself talk out of this ear. It's really weird. It was an impressive showing. Much better than I thought. I thought it was going to be – I thought the line at -6 was actually pretty respectable. I thought it was going to be like a touchdown maybe. So to go in and the way it went, especially by 15 at the end, that was much more than I think I thought it would be. So I'm not going to complain at all. Mikey – of course Mikey's here. Mikey has nothing better to do but watch Oregon stuff. That's all he does. Nah. Gotta love Mikey. But what do you think, Mikey? What do you think of the game? Let me hear your thoughts. Come on. I can't hear myself talk half through this one ear, so I need someone else to. Sorry. Then again, if I start coughing or sneezing, it's been uncontrollable today. I don't know what's going on. Those are a lot of the notes. Outside the whole game day atmosphere, which I really wish I could have watched the whole game day. I got to watch a lot of it. Of course, Lee Corso picked the Ducks because, he's a sucker for the Duck. We all know that. He almost never picks against the Duck. So, worked for him today. I know we got some people in here, so what do you guys think of the game? What do you think of the offense? What do you think of the defense? What do you guys think that needs to be cleaned up a little bit? I'm not as the polished, host, speaker as some of the other guys, so I like to interact with you guys in the chat. It helps a lot. Makes the show go. You guys are what makes the show happen. It's not just me sitting here talking by myself, You guys make it happen. And love responding to you guys and taking your thoughts and questions because, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, Mikey. Yeah, you didn't mind all the talk about DTR and Charbonnet leading up to the game. The fact no one was talking about Bucky or even Nix very much, or the O-line. Yeah. yeah, there was a lot of talk, of course, about DTR and Charbonnet. How DTR is he's fifth year, he's very improved, he's making all the good decisions. For the most part this year, he's making really good decisions. And of course, Charbonnet, he's being Charbonnet. He was doing this last year, running over people, and this year he's stepped it up even more. Yeah, no one talking about Bucky. That was a little surprising. Bucky is kind of an unknown figure in a way. I think outside of like Duck fans or people who play the Oregon now, people don't really know about Bucky that much. Nix, yeah, I don't know. There wasn't a whole lot of talk other than that he has been, good so far this year. Really, he's been really good. But yeah, there wasn't the hype or talk or build up for it. And I don't know if that was other people just trying to build up UCLA. I don't know. Yeah, our O line, the O line, I will say, again, outside of like Nick's getting a little heated about a couple of the penalties, and then I think it was again some of the protections where maybe he thought the protections were supposed to be different. The O line has been amazing. One, not just in rushing, but in protecting. Again, we have still technically only given up. The O line has only given up one sack this year so far. That's to include against Georgia. And that sack came against Stanford, where Nix was trying to scramble out of the pocket, moved up, and he got tackled like half a yard before the line of scrimmage. They called it a sack. So they've given him one sack, technically, all year. That's it. And part of that is also Nix's mobility. But the O-line has to also give him time to do stuff like the play actions. So the O-line has been phenomenal. That was the strength of this team, and it has shown up immensely. I don't think anyone can question or have doubts or complain about the performance of the O-line, really, because they've done what they need to do. And we haven't had an injury yet, like nothing substantial, like some sorry, knocking on wood here, because the O-line has stayed healthy too. Because before the season, that was a fear. They were saying they were already getting dinged up, and it was like, oh no, you don't want to hear that about your O-line before the season. But they've all stayed relatively healthy, and yeah, I have no complaints about the O-line outside of maybe some of the penalties. They're kind of dumb penalties, but it's not a killer anyway. So let's put it that way. But I think this was the biggest hurdle. Because, I mean, really, the next main hurdle the Ducks have to worry about is Utah coming to Eugene. And that's in 4 weeks, I think, 4 weeks. Because next week we go to Cal, which, again, Cal lost to Colorado. So don't think that's going to be too much of an issue. But Cal has always given Oregon defensive fits. I will say, Cal has always been really tough defensively, but it's a new staff now, so that might change. But Cal historically, relatively, has given us fits. November 19th, yeah. So they get like 4 or 5 weeks, yeah, something like that. That's the biggest hurdle because Cal. Then we're at Colorado, whatever. So we get past Cal, Colorado, okay. Then we have Washington at home, and then we have Utah. And then, then we have to go. Yeah, exactly. We have Washington. Then I think we host Utah. Then we have to go to the Beavers, which that's the rivalry too. Same with Washington. You never know what's going to happen, but fortunately, I don't see a lot of issues. I think if we especially get past Utah, I don't think we have to worry about it. But then it would come up to who do we have to potentially face in the championship game? Now that, because right now we are number one in the Pac-12. Like we've taken the spot. UCLA was number one. We're number one now. We've taken it. Unless like there's a complete breakdown or some sort of collapse, it looks pretty good that we should be probably in the title game. Again, unless there's some like epic collapse. So hopefully that's not the case. But anything can happen. That is why you play the games. Isn't that right, Mikey? So, and yeah, those pesky Beavers always giving us fits. But yeah, so the new AP came out too. Oregon went from 10 to number 8. I think UCLA dropped to number 14, I think it was. Maybe someone can correct me. I kind of briefly went over the AP earlier when I got home. Because, again, I was traveling for like over 24 hours. It has not been fun. It is a Pac-12 specialty, but let's not talk about those things. Hopefully that happens to every other team, not us. Because, no, I don't want that. We don't want that to happen to other teams either, because we want, the best competition, especially come the championship game. We don't have divisions. We want to play one versus two. We don't want this, like when we had divisions where sometimes the best team in the conference got left out because they lost at home by a field goal in overtime. 2012. We don't want that. So we want the best teams. So it'll be interesting, though, to see exactly where we go from here. But, Cal and Colorado, not super worried about. I think Washington and Utah, get through that. I think the momentum of the season will continue to carry the team, even against the Beavers. And with as much love and respect that we have for the Beavers, our little brothers. That was funny. On game day yesterday, I was watching some of the updates where who was it? It was Pat McAfee and I think Kirk Herbstreit. He asked the crowd, he was like, who do you guys hate more, the Beavers or the Huskies? And the crowd was just like, pushing you down. He's like, oh, okay. Like it took him a second. He was trying to rile everyone up. It was like, yeah. Unless we're playing the Beavers, we like the Beavers. But yeah. Never the Huskies. Never, ever, ever the Huskies. Well, I'm really sorry, guys, too. I took a lot of notes, but God, today's been rough. It's been a great weekend, though. It's a great weekend, one, for the Pac-12, not just to represent itself nationally and get on game day and have all eyes on us at a primetime game, but then to have, a relatively good game, but then Oregon show why they're Oregon, why they were, quote-unquote, the favorite, outside of maybe USC. It was kind of split, I think, at the beginning of the season of why they were still the favorite to also compete, at least for the title game. And I think that that's exactly what they did. And I couldn't have been more impressed myself. I will say that. So let's do quick recaps here again. 545 total yards. Knicks pretty much you can almost say flawless. 22, 28, 283, 5 touchdowns. Franklin, 8 catches, 132 and 2 touchdowns. Irving, 19 carries for 107 yards. Whittington, 12 for 73. No rushing touchdowns. That was a little weird. Not even from Knicks. A little weird. But, field goals were important for us. That happened. It worked. And, again, the defense did what they needed to do against a good offensive team like UCLA. As much as anyone wants to say, they still have a good offense. They put up yards on us. We just put up more. And that's all that mattered at the end of the day, really. So the final score again, 45-30, Oregon. And what everyone has said was a beatdown, which, again, I think the 30, really you could say it was 45-23, which looks a little better. They got a late, kind of a late touchdown there before Oregon started really burning the clock down. But, I want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of time of your evening. I wish I was feeling a little bit better. I literally can't not hear out of this ear. I really can't. It has been like this for over 24 hours, and I don't know what's happening. It's really weird. And I'm just coughing and sneezing like crazy. But please, the banner below, join us tonight and every Sunday on the main channel of The Voice of College Football for the College Football After Dark show, where we recap the weekend prior. So this is the Week 8 recap tonight. We cover all the teams, not just like Oregon or the Pac-12. We cover all teams nationally. We have, all the teams represented. A lot of people on here probably have watched it. But join us every Sunday, 10:45 Eastern. It means the world to us. It helps a lot. This is where I plug everything for Mark because he loves plugs. Please also make sure to use Mark's Amazon link in the description below. same shopping experience. You don't have to buy the item shown. Just use that link and then search, but it benefits Mark, and you don't have to do anything. It's exactly the same shopping experience. And I appreciate, again, everyone being here. As it says, I am Exploring with Ben. Oh, I'm Ben of Exploring with Ben and Sam. And our link for YouTube is in the description of the video, as well as, like it says here on the ticker, Exploring with Ben and Sam. Check us out here on YouTube if you like it. Subscribe. Drop us a comment. Be like, hey, I'm from the Oregon Ducks post game. Love it. We don't do college football over there. It's not a football channel. So don't be alarmed. But anything from any of you, we love it. We love the participation. And make sure to hit that like button. It helps, one, grow the channel, grow the video, and again, helps Mark out and helps all the Oregon, spreads the word of the Oregon channel to everyone. So it really helps. So again, I appreciate everyone taking the time to be here. Kind of a short show again. Apologies, traveling and just not quite feeling right tonight. So I appreciate you guys being here, and you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend, and hopefully see you tonight on the After Dark show at 10:45 Eastern. Thanks, guys.